Hey there, my fellow author. I'm Sarah Elizabeth Sawyer, an old soul kind of writer living my dream as a full-time author and authorpreneur. But I didn't start out living a confident, creative lifestyle. I struggled with the fears and the mental and emotional barriers that so often plague writers at all stages of their author career. But the truth is that with the right knowledge, tools, and training, you can overcome those barriers. I'm here to teach you how I've developed a lifestyle that's allowed me to publish 19 books and counting. Each week, as you tune into the Confident Fiction Author podcast, you'll get clarity on the steps you need to take to advance your writing career. Whether it's developing your ideal writing routine, tackling new skills like dictating your fiction, or overcoming the obstacles life throws your way, this podcast will help you live a more confident, creative lifestyle. Let's get started. Hey there, my friend, and welcome to this episode of the Confident Fiction Author Podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Elizabeth Sawyer, and today I want to come close and talk about why your fiction writing journey is worth the fight. And this is something that hits close to home for me. I know we talk a lot here on the Confident Fiction Author Podcast about being confident and being diligent in your writing and goals. And I've done an episode series too on when to quit and when to quit certain things or maybe reduce down what you're doing. And then there comes to that point, I think in every author's life or career at some point where you are considering quitting writing. And I know a lot of authors in different communities are kind of at that point. They've been going at it pretty good for a decade and a half or longer, and they're just really wondering if they have any more stories that they have to tell or if they want to keep doing this, if they want to keep that writing going. And if you're at that place and you're facing that decision, like I said, I had an episode series back, I think it was 17, 18, and 19, somewhere in there of my podcast where I talk about making that decision. I want to talk today about holding on to our writing career, holding on to our fiction writing and not giving up and not quitting. And again, this is a personal decision for every writer, and you may be facing that. You may not be facing that, but you're just tired. You're just tired of the daily grind and trying to fight for your fiction writing and make sure that you put that in your schedule and you get time to write in seasons or every day, whatever it is that you've set up for yourself, but you're just tired. You're physically and mentally and emotionally tired. And so I want to go into this today and talk a bit about my journey as a writer and how I have fought to create and maintain this fiction writing lifestyle that I wanted, that I have set, that goal that I set for myself so many years ago to be a full-time writer, and just go into what it really means to never give up on your writing dream, even when progress feels slow, messy, or invisible. Let's get into it. Several years ago, my mom and I watched the movie October Sky. We did watch the cleaned up version of it, but it was really inspiring. There was this moment though, this scene, and I was trying to find it on YouTube to see if I could just get the clip and all, but it made such an impression on me. It's just really stuck with me regardless, even though I only saw it that one time and haven't seen it since. And that was the moment where Homer Hickman, he's trying to get some kind of extra part to do another try for the rocket, and he's asking one of the miners to help him, and the coal miner's like, why don't you just quit? Why don't you just give up? Or something like that. You just never quit, do you? And so then he goes down the mine shaft and Homer's just standing there and he says, I can't. And I was like, oh, that just hit me right in the heart. And I have had so many moments with that. Not so much other people saying, why don't you just quit? Or are you sure you should be doing this? It's not that I've had that. I've asked myself that. And I've asked, why don't you just quit? And those two words just always come to me. of I can't. I can't quit this long-term dream that I've had pretty much my entire life of being a full-time writer and building a specific lifestyle, a lifestyle that I had dreamed of. And I'm not talking about lots of money. I don't make lots of money. I'm talking about freedom and doing what I feel God created me to do. And it's also something that, boy, my dad really drilled into me whenever I was growing up because he had to work a job that he did not enjoy. And it was very hard on him physically to get up at 4:30 every morning and go into work. And his work ethic definitely inspires me, but he didn't want me to have to work like that. He did not want me to have that lifestyle that he had. He always encouraged me to go after my dream and do something that I loved to do. And so that has stuck with me for all throughout adulthood. And I've been able to be a full-time writer since 2017. And that wasn't always with fiction. That brought in income. I also did freelance copywriting. And now I primarily teach through my digital courses. I teach authors how to dictate their fiction. And I have a course for authors who want to accurately and respectfully write Native American characters, which is my fiction writing American Indians course. And I do other digital products like that pay the bills. And I also get to do my fiction writing. So I've been able to maintain this work from home, set my own schedule, which I have to keep myself in check because I would just work all the time. But I've gotten to live my best creative lifestyle for several years now. And that's one of the things I want to do with this podcast is share what I've learned along the way to be able to create this lifestyle so that you can work toward the creative lifestyle that you want. And it may not be working from home full time. You may have a job that you really enjoy and you're doing fiction writing, or you're a full-time stay-at-home parent, or you're in your retirement years. So whatever that best creative lifestyle looks like for you, I just want to give you the tools and the mindset to help you get there. And I'm so grateful for the position that I'm in, that I've been able to reach without having any kind of super successful breakout moment. This is the thing that made it all possible. It's been all of those little things and just being consistent and diligent, and just being diligent in pursuing that goal and just not quitting. So there is that myth of the overnight success, and we think of authors who have just achieved these grand things, and it's like, who are you? Like, how did you manage to do all of this, and where did you come from? Like, I've never heard of you. I had someone recently tell me that, who was really excited to meet me and looked at my resume, essentially, like all of the things I've done lately with teaching authors and the podcast that I've been on. And he's like, why have I not heard of you? And I'm like, look, honestly, I'm a nobody. Okay. I'm not surprised you haven't. I'm getting out there. I'm enjoying it. I love teaching authors, and I've taught thousands of authors now. And it's so fun and so rewarding. But there are millions of writers out there, I'm thinking globally, worldwide, of authors who are writing fiction who have never heard of me and never will. And that's perfectly okay. I'm really glad you have, and I'm really glad that you're listening to the podcast. And I hope that it is benefiting you. And I hope that what I share on here, especially my personal journey, which is what this episode is more leaning toward, that it's helpful for you and encouraging to you to know that it's not this idea of overnight success, or that you have to become a household name to live the creative lifestyle of your dreams. So many authors, myself included, quote, made it after years of effort and work and just doing all the little things that added up to their creative lifestyle that they're now living. So it's definitely not about explosive success. It's about staying in the game long enough to accumulate all of those pieces that you want in your creative lifestyle. And that is one aspect that I want to talk about, because I almost say consistency a lot. I almost talk about being consistent, and I probably have mentioned it here and there in the podcast, but total transparency, I'm not a very consistent person. That's why I have to be diligent. And that's why I have to hold on to that. I can't quit because I'm not terribly consistent. I have so many life interruptions that have happened. I look back over the last 15, 20 years that I've been in adulthood, and there have been so many false starts and stops and crises and things that have happened to derail what I wanted to do as a fiction author and what I was working toward. And the thing is, I've had the success I've had even without being a quote consistent writer. I've never written every day for years on end. I've never been consistent with a certain publishing schedule. I want to be those things, and I'm continuing to work toward being a more consistent writer. That's definitely something that I think would be valuable for me. But if that's something you struggle with, if you constantly have those life interruptions and those things that just seem to derail you at every turn in life, no, it's okay. You can still have success and you can still build toward that best creative lifestyle that you want to experience, even if you're not terribly consistent. What I encourage you to do is just be diligent. Be diligent about trying new approaches while staying focused on your core mission or on your story that you're currently writing, and be willing to pivot and adjust and experiment with different genres or writing habits and hacks. And also be diligent to implement the new things that you're learning through things like my podcast and digital courses. So take those things and implement them and adjust and see what works for you and what is going to move you closer to that dream creative lifestyle that you have. Something really important to remember is that you don't need to get it right the first time. You just need to keep showing up. So I think back on what would have happened if I had quit, if I hadn't stayed diligent in pursuing this creative lifestyle. And this is actually something I envision often because it's what motivates me to get out of bed. I'm not punching a time clock, which I know we don't actually punch time clocks anymore, but that was my dad's terms, like going in and punching the time clock because he's of that generation. He was of that generation that you went and punched a time clock. I don't have that. I have to have my own self-discipline and motivation to get up and do my morning routine and get to my desk and get to work every day. And one of the big things that motivates me with that is I think back on what my life would have looked like and what it will look like if I don't maintain that diligence. I would have lost so much had I given up, had I quit back even a few years ago when I hit my lowest point as an author, as a fiction author, and when I most seriously considered quitting fiction writing. And I'm just so grateful that I did not quit and that I gave myself time and permission and just really utilized all of the things that I had learned. And I spent a lot of time in prayer and in morning pages and all of these things that I needed to get through that season. And it was it was a long season for me. It was several months. And really, honestly, just in the past few months, do I feel like I've really come out of that. And I'm so grateful that I am here. I am in this place, still sharing with you about living your best creative lifestyle. And so that's something you can do is envision if you're in the midst of that, if you're in the middle of, you have had some success, you've built a good portion of your author career, you have gotten to that point of stability, and you're like, do I stay here? Do I stay in the midst of all of this, or do I quit? And my encouragement to you is, rather than looking around at how hard things are or how you're just not sure you can keep motivating yourself to get up and do the work each day and write your fiction, instead of looking at that, look to the vision of what life would look like without your fiction writing and without what you have built. And you may be okay with what that vision looks like, but I encourage you to really use your imagination, which we're pretty good at as fiction writers, but use your imagination and put yourself in that place for a week, 2 weeks, a month, a year, and really question, is that where you want to go? Or do you want to keep holding on and keep fighting for your dream to write fiction and whatever it is that looks like for you to live your best creative lifestyle? So take into consideration where you're at, look where you want to go, and look where you would end up if you didn't hold on to that vision. And so if that vision is what you want to hold on to, I encourage you to audibly or in writing, just recommit to your dream of writing fiction, and not recommitting to hustling harder, but to just staying present on the journey and being diligent as you go forward in it. So some simple steps that you can take to do that is to revisit your original why. Why do you want to stay on this path? Why do you want to keep working to develop your best creative lifestyle? And write that down. If you've never written it down, write it down or create a strong visual for it in your memory. And that's something that I've done. And again, it ties back to my dad and his history of work and work ethic, and also his encouragement for me to live my dream. And so I revisit my why. Sometimes I have to do it every day to really bring myself up and get to work regardless of how tired I'm feeling. And not to say, I talk a lot about taking a rest and leisure when you need it, but sometimes you just have to really hold on and fight for that day and to do what it is I know I need to do. Another step you can take is track your wins, big and small. I talk about, getting a physical calendar and having some stickers and just putting a sticker on that day if you did your fiction writing or whatever kind of win it was that you wanted to achieve that week or that day. Maybe it was starting a new ad to promote your books or writing an author newsletter, or just writing 5 minutes of fiction that day. Give yourself a sticker, track those wins. And something else that my friend encouraged me to do, and she was like, "You don't have this already?" And I was like, "That's a really good idea." And that's to have a smile file. So having a file folder on your computer that when something just comes in that makes you smile, grab a screenshot of it. Maybe it's a review or a comment on your social media from a reader that how your book really impacted them or made them laugh, made them cry. Or maybe you hit number 1 in your Amazon category and you grab a screenshot of that. So have a file, call it your smile file, and put those in there. That way when you're having those days that it is getting a bit much and you are feeling tired and overwhelmed by it all, you can open up that smile file and click through those screenshots to remind yourself of the wins that you have had. And then lastly, step that you can take is to just keep learning and implementing what it is that you're learning. So when you listen to a podcast episode like this and you really have that value and you're like, yeah, I need to write down my why, or I need to start a smile file, take a few minutes to go ahead and implement it. They say if something takes 5 minutes or less, go ahead and do it instead of adding it to your to-do list. And that's something that you can do after listening to this podcast episode is just take 5 minutes to create a folder called your smile file. And maybe you already have some screenshots of encouragement. If not, go over to your book on Goodreads or on one of the online retail outlets and snag some screenshots of your favorite reviews that you've gotten on your books or emails that you've received. Maybe you haven't published much yet and you've only put some flash fiction out there and some competition, but you got some good feedback or encouragement from a friend or a family member who sent you a text message that really lifted your spirits. So grab those, just take 5 minutes and collect up a few of those, add them to your smile file so that you have a place to go to and something to hold on to when you are feeling ready to quit on your dream of creating your best creative lifestyle. All right, my friend, wrapping up here, I just want to say that your writing dream is worth it. And I truly believe that if you don't quit, you will get there. You will get to that ideal, best creative lifestyle that you're wanting to create. I totally believe it is possible. I encourage you to just keep going and not look for those instant overnight successes, but keep that vision of the life that you're building one word at a time. That's it for this episode. I will see you next time in the Confident Fiction Author podcast. If this was helpful for you, please do leave a review on the podcast on one of your favorite, whatever listening app that you consume the podcast on, or head over to fictioncourses.substack.com. Leave a comment on this podcast episode. I will take a screenshot of it and add it to my smile file of you just declaring your intention to hold on to your writing dream. I'll see you in the next episode of the Confident Fiction Author. Take care.